There are 7 distinct ways people spend money, and once you can actually name them, you start noticing which ones you fall into without even realizing it. This isn't about good spending versus bad spending. It's about understanding the different mental triggers behind every purchase you make, because once you can spot the trigger, you can finally decide whether to follow it or not. Let's go through all 7. Impulse spending. This is the purchase that happens in under 60 seconds with almost no thinking involved. You see something, you want it, you buy it, all in one smooth motion with basically zero gap between the urge and the transaction. It's not really about the object itself, it's about the tiny hit of excitement that comes from acquiring something new, right now, immediately. Online shopping made this dramatically worse, because the entire path from "I want this" to "it's mine" got compressed down to a single tap, with saved payment info doing all the work your hesitation used to do. The tell for impulse spending is simple. If you can't remember deciding to buy it, you didn't decide. The impulse decided for you. Status spending. This is money spent specifically to signal something about you to other people. That you're successful, tasteful, doing well, part of a certain group. The object itself is almost secondary. What you're actually buying is the message it sends. A logo on a bag, a specific brand of car, a particular neighborhood to live in, even if a cheaper one down the road offers the exact same square footage. Status spending gets dangerous specifically because the target keeps moving. There's always a slightly nicer version of whatever you just bought, worn by someone slightly further ahead of you, which means the finish line for looking successful never actually arrives. You just keep paying to stay in a race that was never designed to end. Convenience spending. This is paying extra, sometimes significantly extra, purely to save time or effort. Food delivery instead of cooking, a taxi instead of a 15-minute walk, pre-chopped vegetables instead of a knife in 5 minutes. None of this is inherently wrong. Time genuinely has value, and sometimes paying for convenience is the correct trade. The problem is when convenience spending becomes the automatic default for everything, regardless of whether the time actually saved was worth the premium paid, until you look at a month of these small premiums stacked together and realize you paid rent-level money just to avoid minor inconveniences. Sunk cost spending. This is when you keep spending money on something specifically because you've already spent money on it, even when the smartest move would clearly be to stop. You bought expensive gym equipment, so you keep buying supplements to justify it, even though you haven't used the equipment in months. You've already put $1,000 into fixing an old car, so you put in another $1,000 because you're already this deep in. The brain treats past spending as a reason to keep spending, when logically, past spending is completely irrelevant to what you should do next. Money already gone is gone either way, and the only real question is whether spending more from here actually makes sense on its own. Social spending. This is money spent specifically because of the people around you in a given moment, not because you personally wanted to spend it. Splitting a bill evenly at a group dinner when you ordered a salad and everyone else ordered steak and drinks. Chipping in for a group trip you can't really afford because saying no felt more expensive socially than saying yes financially. Buying a round of drinks because everyone else is buying rounds and you don't want to be the one who doesn't. Social spending is powerful precisely because the cost of refusing isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in awkwardness. And for most people, awkwardness feels like the more expensive option, even when the math says otherwise. Frictionless spending. This is spending that's specifically engineered to require as little conscious decision-making as possible. Subscriptions that renew automatically without asking. One-click purchasing with a card already saved. Auto-pay set up once and then never looked at again. This category exists because businesses have learned something simple and extremely profitable. The more friction you remove between wanting something and paying for it, the more people spend, almost regardless of whether they'd choose to spend that much if they had to actively re-decide every single time. It's not that you're being tricked exactly. It's that the entire system is built to make sure you never have to think about it, which is precisely the point. And the 7th type? Reward spending. This is spending that shows up specifically after a period of effort, stress, or restriction, functioning as a kind of emotional payoff for having pushed through something hard. You worked 60 hours this week, so you buy something to market. You stuck to a strict budget for a month, so the moment it ends, you spend harder than usual, almost as compensation for the discipline. This one is tricky because it's not automatically bad. Humans genuinely need release valves, and treating effort with zero reward at all tends to backfire eventually. The problem shows up when reward spending becomes disconnected from any actual plan, when the size of the reward keeps quietly growing, or when it starts eating into money that was already earmarked for something else entirely. So here's the actual point of naming all 7 of these, because it's not just a trivia exercise. Almost every purchase you make this week is going to fall into one of these 7 categories, whether you notice it or not. The people who actually get better at managing money aren't the people who eliminate spending. That's neither realistic nor the goal. They're the people who can catch themselves mid-purchase and correctly identify which of these 7 is currently driving the decision. Because naming the trigger is what creates the tiny gap where an actual choice becomes possible again. Try this for 1 week. Every time you spend money on anything beyond a genuine, planned necessity, quietly ask yourself which of these 7 categories it falls into. Don't judge it. Don't force yourself to stop. Just name it. Most people who do this exercise honestly are shocked by how lopsided their own spending turns out to be. Almost everyone discovers they've got 1 or 2 categories doing the vast majority of the damage, hiding in plain sight behind purchases that each felt completely reasonable on their own. So which of these 7 hits closest to home for you? Impulse? Status? Convenience? Sunk cost? Social? Frictionless? Or reward? Be honest with yourself and drop it in the comments, because naming it out loud tends to be the moment people actually start noticing it happening in real time. And if this helped you see your own spending a little more clearly, subscribe, because we're breaking down more of the psychology behind money and behavior in the videos ahead. See you in the next one.